Em Portsmouth, Inglaterra, um sofisticado centro de conservação abriga o Mary Rose, a nau capitânia de Henrique VIII. Há mais de 20 anos, ele passa por uma complexa restauração supervisionada por Christopher Dobbs.
We're about to go into the ship hall, but we have to wear a chemical suit because we're spraying the ship with a water-soluble wax called polyethylene glycol.
A equipe não poupa esforços para conservar o Mary Rose, uma relíquia da Inglaterra de Tudor. Construído em 1511, é o navio de guerra em exposição mais antigo do mundo.
The Mary Rose was a really extraordinary find because it dates from a historical period where very little is known about ships and naval architecture.
Henrique VIII foi um dos reis mais célebres da história. Quando assumiu o trono em 1509, desenvolveu a força naval que faria da Inglaterra uma potência.
He really built up the navy in England. We didn't have anything called a navy in those days. There was just the king's ships. And he built up this fleet from about 5 warships to about 50. The Mary Rose is extraordinary because it was the key ship of a key king. So it's right at the centre of modern English history. It was also one of the first ships to have gun ports, one of the first purpose-built warships.
Henrique VIII precisava dessa enorme frota de navios de guerra para combater um de seus maiores inimigos, a França. Em 19 de julho de 1545, enquanto patrulhavam a costa sul da Inglaterra, os tripulantes avistaram uma ameaça no horizonte.
There was an enormous French fleet off the Isle of Wight, just about a mile or two away from Portsmouth. And the Mary Rose was sailing out with the English fleet to engage the French. And in the heat of the battle, at the start of this engagement, the Mary Rose sank.
O Mary Rose ficou submerso durante mais de 425 anos. Em 1971, usando um avançado sonar e um perfilador de subfundo, uma equipe de busca liderada por Alexander McKee localizou um grande navio de carvalho a 20 metros da superfície. Era o Mary Rose.
When the ship was first found in 1971, these 3 timbers with the orange tags were the only things showing above the mud of the seabed.
Resgatar esse navio, coberto por séculos de lama, seria um processo extremamente longo e tedioso. Escavar a relíquia consumiria mais de 10 anos e 4 milhões de dólares. Para retirar o navio, centenas de mergulhadores teriam de escavar a lama ao redor do navio inteiro. Um enorme guindaste de aço seria instalado sobre o casco de 30 metros de extensão. Mergulhadores abririam mais de 170 furos no casco para prendê-lo com cabos à plataforma de suspensão. Em uma manobra perigosa, seria cuidadosamente suspenso do leito do mar e transferido debaixo d'água até um suporte de aço. Finalmente instalado sobre o suporte, o delicado casco seria retirado da água.
There were 3 problems that we knew would be particularly difficult. One was that the ship was just an open hull. It wasn't a complete hull. It was just half a hull, almost like a petal. The second thing is, because it was in this really thick mud, there's a lot of suction. So the first bit of the raising would be extremely difficult. Finally, when you bring a really waterlogged ship out of the water, it increases in weight about 7 times.
Mas um desafio superava todos os outros. O navio de madeira era perigosamente frágil.
All the internal beams had lost their strength, and the ship was also a cross-section. So the hardest thing really was raising such an ancient ship.
Em 1971, a escavação do Mary Rose teve início. A primeira tarefa era remover séculos de sedimentos e expor o navio.
The way we did this was using water jets which actually cut out the mud, and then a very, very large suction device called an airlift to suck the mud out. The team of divers worked really carefully. Instead of immediately digging inside the ship, they outlined the edge of the ship. So by the end of 1978, they'd shown that there must be an intact ship under the mud.
Então teve início a segunda fase do projeto de resgate: escavar em busca de artefatos. Nos 3 anos seguintes, mais de 19.000 objetos foram retirados.
I think people dreamt that there might be a lot of contents, but nobody could have predicted just the amount of stuff that we found in there, because it was just so surprising that it had all survived. Because the ship silted up extremely quickly, it meant that all the objects inside the ship were preserved. All the personal possessions of the crew, all the ship's equipment, all the armament that was on board this warship. And that in itself was an incredible feat of human endeavour.
No final de 1981, a escavação do casco foi concluída. E em abril de 1982, começou a complexa operação de resgate. Entre os profissionais que trabalharam nessa etapa estavam engenheiros da Marinha Britânica que projetaram a plataforma de suspensão.
At the start of the season, we had to dig the holes to be ready for the legs of the lifting frame.
Os mergulhadores trabalhavam em águas escuras, sem enxergar quase nada.
It's lined us too far to the east. We need to get this lifting frame further over this way.
A plataforma de suspensão foi instalada diretamente sobre o navio.
The normal way to salvage a ship would be to put strops underneath the hull, but we thought that that would actually create too much point loading on some bits of the hull. So what we actually did is to wire up the hull to specific strong points, like these large riders, which were actually put in during the life of the ship to strengthen it.
Em toda a extensão do navio foram feitos furos com uma furadeira pneumática e brocas de 1,5 metros.
We put in 170 of these lifting bolts in the hull. But then the next exciting bit, some would say it's the most dangerous bit, was we had to go under the hull, connecting the backing plates to those lifting points. These backing plates underneath the hull helped us spread the load in an individual area. So one of the first jobs we had to do was actually dig tunnels underneath the hull to put these backing plates in. And that was potentially quite scary. It looked scary in the pictures, but underwater it was completely dark anyway. You had no visibility.
Os mergulhadores usaram jatos de água especiais para escavar os túneis sob o casco. Depois, empregaram um longo tubo de sucção para remover os sedimentos.
We cut out blocks of mud, and then they'd be taken down tide using this thing. It's a bit like an underwater vacuum cleaner.
Durante 4 meses, 14 mergulhadores especializados fizeram furos e posicionaram pinos e chapas para firmar o casco.
At each section, we drilled about 10 holes, so about 170 through the ship, and these were the ones that we used to clamp the hull together.
Depois, os mergulhadores prenderam 70 cabos de aço aos pinos em cada um dos pontos de suspensão e os fixaram na plataforma do guindaste.
So the first bit of the raising we knew would be extremely difficult because of the suction effect of the mud. So the way we did this was to do it very, very slowly.
12 guinchos hidráulicos estenderam as hastes da plataforma.
It was stunning because you could just feel the ship moving, hanging from its wires. And that's the point that we just knew that the ship was still in one piece and was hanging underwater and ready for us to do the underwater transfer. Once the ship was clear of the seabed, in a way it was a great relief, but we knew we had an enormous amount of challenges ahead.
Agora, a equipe tentaria a manobra mais crítica de toda a operação: transferir o casco sob a água até um suporte de aço. Um imenso guindaste flutuante posicionou o suporte perto do navio. Em 11 de outubro de 1982, o içamento final começou.
My job from about 7 in the morning till 10 was to fill up some lift bags that we were also using to cushion the hull between the wooden part of the hull and the cradle.
Às 9h03 da manhã, o Mary Rose rompeu a superfície pela primeira vez em 437 anos.
It was just such an emotional moment. And it was really only at that moment that we realised how much had been achieved by so many hundred divers over the last 10, 20 years, and also what an achievement it had been raising the Mary Rose at all.
Mas, segundos depois, algo interrompeu abruptamente o içamento.
We could actually see that one corner of the lifting frame was coming up first, and this later caused an enormous problem. One strop was basically shorter than the other three, and that meant that far too much load was coming up on one corner of the ship, and once the complete weight of the ship came on the load, something had to give.
Temendo o pior, os mergulhadores inspecionaram o suporte e descobriram o problema.
One of the salvage wires actually went round a piece of structure it shouldn't, so that wire was actually much shorter than the others, and far too much load was coming onto one corner.
Os mergulhadores conseguiram desenganchar o cabo.
Then it was stable again, and the lift could continue.
A nau capitânia de Henrique VIII finalmente saíra da água. Mas agora, a equipe tinha o desafio de transferi-la para uma barcaça.
The cradle had to be positioned within about a couple of inches either way on the barge, so it took an enormously long time.
Finalmente, o Mary Rose voltava para casa.
There were just thousands of people, and there were people popping their horns, and there were little boats out popping their sirens, and it was just stunning.
Todos celebravam a ressurreição do Mary Rose, o navio que permitiria entrever a vida nos tempos de Henrique VIII.
These are just four of the guns that we found on the Mary Rose, amongst the 19,000 objects. And these are stunning because they tell us also about Henry VIII. They've each got his coats of arms and his ciphers. This one says, Henricus Octavius, de Gracia Angliae Francii et Hibernia Rex. Henry VIII, by the grace of God, King of England, France and Ireland. So he's purporting to be King of France. The Mary Rose is so important that one of our leading historians in England, David Starkey, has said the Mary Rose tells us more about Henry VIII, more about his interests, what he spends his money on, than any state document he knows of. I think people are attracted to see the Mary Rose, not just because it's part of our history, you know, it was Henry VIII's flagship, but because they've heard about all the objects we found on board, and that it's just stunning that a shipwreck that was on the bottom of the sea is sort of quintessentially an English, it's a batty thing to do, is to raise a shipwreck from the bottom of the sea and put it in the museum.